We are already programmed by our environments that what we are born into. So if you have a rich father, you will find it difficult to be poor. If you have a poor father, you will find it difficult to be rich. you know, so there's a quote somewhere I saw where somebody said, "You fall to the level of your systems. You don't fall. The default for you every time is what you were born into. So the work you have to do is the gravity that is pulling you is poverty if you are born into poverty. But the person who was born into riches, the gravity that is pulling them is riches, plentiness, riches. So if the person is irresponsible, they will always what's the word? Cycle back to having money. It's just how it is. So that's how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Apart from an intentional system somebody said to get that rolling, there's also a mental system that is in place that keeps pulling the ones who don't have, who are born into lack. So the person who was born into lack can become the generation's millionaire, the first generation millionaire, by activating another. So against gravity, there's a force that counters gravity. It's another law you have to activate. That's the law of aerodynamics. So at a certain velocity, aircrafts and rockets can escape gravity. You see? So that other secondary law has to be in motion and active to keep you, if you have crossed from lack and poverty to riches, you will need to leave that force active. The moment you switch it off, you may be subject to free fall back to where you started from. You see? So the same holds for the person who was born into plenty, surplus. The child cannot fail just because they are mentally already brainwashed to succeed financially. They could fail especially if you are born into a failed home where there's no, people are fighting, people are abusing physically, verbally, emotionally. The mother, maybe single parent, whatever the case may be. Of course, that programming, that's what they now have to battle against at their own gravity. So if they do no work, they'll end up with no partner. There will be no home for their own child to grow in, but they will be successful financially because they are born into success. So the work a man is supposed to do is against their background. You're supposed to work against your background. So the child or the man who was born into affluence and wealth doesn't really have to do any work. Apart from the fact that physically itself, the family's wealth already. There are certain families where the money cannot run out because of the systems that throw the money out. Families that own businesses that employ people. Families that own businesses that have all kinds of what's the word for it? Businesses that are traded in the public market. So it's a lot of supervision and interest in the business. And then the rest of the family is living off dividends that keep coming. So you're responsible for 1 month. You lack some money for 2 days. And then at the end of the month again, cash comes in again. You see? So physically speaking, irresponsibility cannot run the money out. It's only when the person is now put at the helm of affairs, assuming the business was set up in a way that is one owner, and then you can put the responsible son at the helm of affairs, and it's just one business family has, they can run it into the ground. Otherwise, the irresponsible son cannot do anything to the business. That's how people will businesses to cats and animals. It's not for the animals to run them. Business is just put in the name of the animal. But there is a structure already that is rolling every day, working in those businesses that keep the cash flow going. But this applies to every other thing. So whatever you are born into, you have to work against it if it's negative. So some of us who are born into homes they call middle class, I think we're one of the worst because we it's not clear cut what you want to avoid. The man who was born without shoes in his leg, that one is he has a fear that will remind him. He has things to run away from, things that give him trauma, that remind him where he's coming from in case he wants to use concentration. But the middle class is a very dangerous class, because you're not completely in lack. But now with inflation, the person is not the new poor man. So you're realizing late in life that you are actually, it was a mask over the fact that you are born into, poverty. You see, so the man who is in this group that is not rich, that's the class. That other class is the class that are not rich. As a man, the father was not rich. You have a lot of work to do. You need to keep the engine on that work against the mental programming. So how are some of the ways that we can program ourselves for financial success? By the things we listen to every day. So if you're somebody that uses social media all the time, you're always on your phone. You see now the algorithm has gotten very good. When you open your phone, it's what you like seeing that you keep seeing. If it's girls that are dancing, they always see. Boys that are dancing. It's dance you see all the time. When you start listening to things that serve to motivate, when we start listening to things that serve to motivate us, the doom scrolling we do will now amount to generating kinetic energy against what we have to work against. So a lot of adult life is action and then rest, accompanied by scrolling. Then action, then rest, accompanied by scrolling. So you're working against the inertia and gravity that you have to work against by whatever means you're working against it. Then when you're resting, you're supposed to be mentally programming yourself to support the work you're doing already. So you see, the other way is friend groups, the people you talk to all the time. If there are people who are always talking about lack, what can we do? Hunger is in the town. They always they enjoy that. But I know people who like to talk about the difficulty and how things are hard and how, I know a couple of people like that. They just like to do it to take away attention from them sometimes. They have some cash on them. They want you to not feel like they have anything. So they now start preaching all these realities that you will agree with. And they wallow in a lot of that. So that type of conversation will not work well for you because that's what was drummed into your brain without your permission. From age 0 to age 7, the brain is in a mode called theta. And that brain mode, what it does is just to record information. You are wired at that age with all the lack you saw and heard. So some parents were irresponsible in quotes enough to make the child notice the lack or the difficulty the society at the time was having. For example, in certain climes, the financial situation in certain countries really bad right now. But a responsible parent who had gathered supplies for his family will not let the children in that family notice it, except when they look at the news. But in certain other families, whatever is going on outside is felt immediately in the family. So when temperatures go very high outside, it's felt inside. When it's very low, it's felt inside. There's no shock absorber in between that the parent should be. So if you are born in the type of environment, you're already mentally programmed for failure. You're already going to settle. And look at how much you're struggling. Look at how much some of us are struggling. to make ends meet. You know, but if you look at those children of people who are affluent, you see the way it looks like things are. Sometimes you explain it away and see the father left money for them. Sometimes it's not it. Sometimes they understand business better than you. Sometimes there are principles they know default. You understand saving money better. They have better fractions for allocating income than you. And it's default. It's not a struggle for them. It's something they just just like when you brush your teeth every morning and you have your bath. All those things you do routinely, you start thinking about it. They don't think about some of the financial the good financial principles that they recorded into their system when they were younger. They don't think about those things. And those things sustain supply, financial supply. Again, unconsciously for them. But we, on this other side, whatever that created the lack that is in the family, all the recipe, all the ingredients that created that lack, that is everything that's in our own head. And it's worse in the middle class, like I was saying. The middle class dresses very well. The ones that look rich are the ones in the middle class now. So they dress very well. You learn to spend money on how you look. And there are all kinds of mental models that support that. And then you learn to pay attention to perception. For example, you want to look a certain way to the people who are looking at you, maybe your neighbors, colleagues. The poor man sometimes does not care. He's just trying to eat food. It's the man in the middle who is bothered about some of these things. And they will go the extra mile, sometimes go beyond income to sustain this whatever. And then the child grew up in that setting where this is what they recorded. That type of irresponsibility financially. So they're under this pressure that nobody put them on except themselves. To show up a certain type of way. So when you look at the middle class, you can't differentiate them sometimes from the rich until it's time to pay huge bills. They're even the ones, they have very good taste, drive good cars at times. But then some of those things that they put there, that they stay in certain homes. So it's a lot of liabilities that they accumulate, and then they work jobs. So the jobs just fund the life and the bills. So the person works a job that just funds their bills, and that's it. Nothing in the middle to do anything with. But the rich man had businesses he was running, working or not working, had businesses, that people were working in and making money for him in that sense. And then there were formulas they used to break the money down when profit comes in and where the money goes to. It's a system that runs. And when the child is born, the child is shown the formula. When money comes in, social amount goes to tax. Social amount is sent back into the company. Social amount goes, this is the percentage that you can now take and spend. This is what, and it's a default for the child. The child already knows. So when his own money comes in also, he's already breaking the money up like that already. He's already financially responsible without being taught. Because he saw those things happen in real time. He was, again, mentally programmed with the correct information financially. Plus, the fact that the environment is already financially free. And there's supply of cash in that environment. So there's no scarcity. Even mentally, there's this scarcity mentality with the rest of the population that's not there with the rich. So the child just knows that when they need something, they get it. They just know that food should not be lacking. They don't know what lack of food is. And they'll never know it till they die. Even as adults. And then they perinate the same thing to their children. And that cycle continues. And the rich stay rich, the poor stay poor. So the man who will cross from this side to this side has to make sure that the force of discipline is always on. The force of programming. So you want to get good quality friends who are always talking about how to move forward. So when you're relaxing, you're programming yourself. The programming is the problem. Your brain has already been wired. So you have to rewire it. You have to rewire your brain. You have to redo the information that was given to you without your permission. Now, consciously, you have to unlearn those things. But you don't unlearn them by unlearning them in emptiness. You bring in an alternative system, an alternative program to displace that one, the one that is running already. And the way to do it is, rather than doom scrolling, You can doom scroll, Tate talk. You know, there's this TikTok algorithm rule. The Andrew Tate. Tate always screaming and shouting, and most of the things he's shouting about are things that can make a man, can keep a man. Financial responsibility. He's preaching what the essence of a man is: protection, provision, those types of things. You have to leave aside the realm of emotion. How you feel is not very important as much as how a woman feels. A woman's emotion should be paid attention to more than that of a man. A man is supposed to be a man regardless of how he feels. While he works on it, if he has to. What's his feeling? And there are a couple of other people there also who have lived the life, who have been through storms, and who are teachers. And they are sharing their experiences, sharing lessons. These are the people we should put our ears to when we are scrolling on social media. And they will now form the media that will now retrograde